These are the 5 steps how I created the game within 10 hours for Ludum LD50, which is a game making competition where you have to make a game within 48 hours if you do the compo variant like me. Hello, my name is Vincent and I started with C. After I saw the theme and knew that I had the Sunday off, I started to write some ideas for things that are inevitable, like the theme suggested. I came up with some ideas like death, love and aging, but it became pretty clear that the time passing thing was one of my favorites. I quickly came up with a general game idea and tried to visualize it in Paint. So basically it's a top-down shooter where the player is locked in the middle and has to shoot the enemies to defend themselves. And like the field prizes, my idea counter is going up crazy. So I wrote down some ideas for the player characters and his evolvement. He should get 10 years older every time he gets touched by an hourglass. When he ages, he will change his sprite and the bullet sprite. And so I began. I started the timer and 6 hours from now we should be pretty much done. Which brings us to point number 2. What happens if you combine a bad game dev with a worse pixel artist? That's right, me. So I got to it and drew some sprites. I started with the baby and then worked my way up the ages. I struggled a bit with the older generations, so I just copied the millennial and changed some stuff around. I wanted to have a really old man, but my idea of having someone in a wheelchair didn't quite work out, so I just made a relatively old man with a stick. Now that I had the people done, I started with their bullets. As explained in the beginning, the player should age every time he gets a hit, and his bullets should change with him. I tried to work up my way with the ages, but I struggled with the toy for the school kid, so I decided to skip it for now. So I worked on the other sprites and got them done relatively quickly. But you know what that means. A man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. Well, that didn't go so well. But after some time I got it, and these are the final sprites. We have a jar of baby food, a football, a mouse, a cup of coffee, some money, a beer and a skull. I drew some more stuff like an hourglass or the background, and just to get it clear. I know this looks very bad, but since I'm more of a programmer and a game designer, I'm gonna take what I have and hope it goes under purposefully bad art, if you know what I mean. Okay, I'm gonna spare you with my bad art for now and transition to the... I immediately started working on the shooting mechanic, and some tutorials later, I somehow managed to get it working. And then I tried to implement the enemies and the aging system. But then the moment of inspiration hit me as I was shooting the hourglasses, and it felt satisfying. Originally I wanted to implement some kind of health system. But because just shooting the enemies around to get them away from you feels so good, or I'm just lazy, I decided to keep it this way. And somewhere in this time frame I also implemented the outer worlds and the background. Then I made a little script for the enemies to track the player. Myself, of course. Well, tutorials are just great, aren't they? So I used another one to implement the timer. And somewhere in the process I also got the player and its bullet to age. I also let out my funny side and wrote down some stereotypical sayings that change if the player ages. At the end I just added a little menu with a settings button that's never, really never, for the rest of time gonna be used. Muhahahaha. And that's pretty much it, which brings us to the 6-hour product. Let me interrupt you with the joke time, the section of this video where I tell you some super flat game development jokes to loosen up the dry game dev monologue. How many programmers does it take to change a light bulb? None. It's a hardware problem. And now let's see the... So right now when you start, you are presented with the main menu, and if you click play, you are able to shoot the enemies, evolve if you are killed, and you can die. You see there are the different sayings, and we have a working timer. And there even is a reset and a menu button after you lose. Because we don't got any sound effects or a high score yet, we gotta add some First, I tried myself to make some sounds, and that's where the sound nightmare started. Also as I thought, because actually it wasn't that bad. I just used some free sound generators out of the internet and found a really good music generator that was able to generate me a really solid soundtrack. I also generated and implemented a really simple sound effect when you die and when you shoot. Then I just added a little sound setting and done was I. But that's the time where the high score odyssey started. At first I tried to implement it through duplicating the normal score, but that didn't work. And writing another system didn't work also. So sadly I decided to scrap it. Oh, you thought I would give up just like that? No, I kept grinding. And after billions of years, I finally got it working. Well, not quite, but half an hour was it. At the end of the jam, I'm proud to present to you a working high score system. Oh, dang, it's so beautiful. And that's it. Just got to upload the game on itch.io and add some screenshots and a banner. Well, that took like an hour, but it worked. At the end, I finished the compo 3 hours before the deadline. That means that I had worked 9.5 hours on the game in total, and you can play it right now through the link in the description. As I did a summary, I want to say that this was a cool experience, a ton of fun, and I'm really proud to finish with a working game that's almost bug-free. If you enjoyed the video, it would make my day if you could subscribe and like. Have a great day and bye!